good evening, and welcome to the Super License F1 podcast. My name's Rodney.
My name is Zach.
Zach, happy Shakedown to you. It's Shakedown Day. How you doing?
The happiest of shakedowns to you as well.
And to you for this season of the Shake. There's no race to talk about. There's a race this weekend, but there's no race last weekend to talk about, so we shake it off. Well, what else have you got better to do than talk to me?
You know what? In these gaps between like where there's no race on the race weekend that makes it not a race weekend, I just like to forget that Formula One even exists sometimes. You just like to be like, you know what? Give my brain a break, give my right foot a break from all the accelerating, pretending that I'm doing whilst watching the race. Actually, do you ever get that when you're driving? How good of a passenger are you? I haven't driven you very much around. You've driven me places. But how good of a passenger are you? Describe to me your passenger experience.
I'm generally pretty good, but there's definitely times when I'm like, pushing for the phantom brake, like, this is too fast. No, too much.
Have you seen that light's gone orange and the person in front of you has decided to not go through it?
And you're speeding up instead of slowing down here. This is the wrong thing to do. You just develop your own driving instincts, and if you're the primary driver all the time, it just becomes like, okay, I can read what's happening and I would slow down here. Otherwise could be trouble. And then when someone doesn't slow down like that, you're like, the nerves.
Yeah.
Rod's secret battle with nerves. It's just, that's the kind of driver I am. Most of the time, though, I'm fine, because the good thing is, most of the time I drive with normal people who are fine and normal and fine.
Yes, exactly. Normal and fine.
So it's not a problem.
Normal people are fine. I like the idea of from now on referring to the number one driver at a team as the primary driver. Yes.
I'm the primary driver.
George Russell, welcome to Mercedes. But my name is Mr. Lewis Hamilton. I'm the primary driver.
You'll be in the passenger seat, I'm afraid.
Exactly.
Well, Zach, we've covered that there's no race. This weekend is the Turkish Grand Prix. It's turkey time, gobble, gobble. So we can all lick our lips in preparation for that. But until then, we need something to get us through, which is what this is all about. So what are we going to do? We've got the infamous, world-famous Shakedown poll to cover. Then we're going to look at a couple of news items, and we're going to give you some content recommendations things that we've been liking, because we're all in lockdown. We all know it sucks, so we've all got to help each other out by recommending some content, and then we'll just see what else comes up along the way. Should we get into the Shakedown poll to start things off?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I reckon I know what your suggestion's going to be, your content recommendation. I feel like I know what it is.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're very cocky. I'll have you know.
Really confident.
Hang on. This is the trademark thing that we do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got a text doc going with 9 recommendations in there currently, so good luck.
Okay.
Good luck thinking that you know what it is.
Well, I've got a 1 in 9 chance then. The more you add, the more likely, the higher the likelihood that I'll get it.
I think that what you're going to guess is, well, maybe we'll play this game later. I think what you're going to guess is probably on the list, but maybe not in the way that you think. Anyway, this is not time for that. It's time for Shakedown poll.
Sure. Yeah, tell me
this week's poll was suggested last week on the show, which actually I have another thing about last week's show that I need to get into. But before that, it's time for the world-famous Shakedown poll. This week, the question was, Philando Aloris, is that a thing? Your options were, yep, or... yeah, righto, mate. Which, if you're an Australian, you know. If you know, you know. That means no. It might look like it means yes, but yeah, righto, mate. Definitely means no. So your options are yep or no. Zach, do you want to weigh in now and see? And we'll tease it. We'll find out later what everybody else voted for. But what would you do here? Philando Aloris, the famous merger of Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris. Is this a thing? Yep or yeah, righto, mate? What's your guess?
I think it'll be yeah, right, yeah, mate, yeah, nah. I think
yeah,
it's
right,
the second
mate.
one. Yeah,
okay.
Right, mate. Yeah,
well, we'll find out.
That was my reaction to myself when I had the thought about it, and I was like, that's why I had to bring it up with you, because we're very close.
It's true.
Zach struggles with internal narrative on joke.
I know. Rod struggled with jokes that were made before the podcast started recording, and the listeners' confusion. Well, yeah, we'll find out soon about that. Let's get into a couple of the headlines. I mean, it's been a big week in Formula One, as it always is, with 2 amazing headlines about all that we could find that was... I mean, look, the thing is, the reason people listen to this show and not some other shows that just talk about anything is that we filter out. We're like a filter. We're a curator. We don't talk about rubbish, man. We just talk about the good stuff. So here's the good stuff.
Yeah.
Which one do we want to dive into?
Let's do Qatar 2021.
Let's do Qatar, right, okay. So yes, Qatar, there's going to be a race in Qatar. Then there's going to have a little sleep. They're just going to have a year off after all that effort of having one race. And then they're back for 10 massive years in Qatar after that. I
It's a
don't.
lot
I mean,
of years. That's the one of all the things. There's two things. I think that this just happened because all of the countries in that region, whether that's Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, are like, you know what, we should all have Formula One races. And it might behoove Formula One to just kind of put them all at the same time, although they don't, which I find odd. Because, I mean, that would be better for the environment, all that kind of stuff. Also, the other thing that popped down at me was the 10-year contract. Like, way to just lock it in, Formula One. Like, I don't know who that better serves, but I think it better serves Qatar because they're like, you know what? Going to make sure that we've got this for a really long time at this very specific price because we think Formula One's going to become even more valuable and we can afford to pay for it up front. And probably those kinds of contracts too, I think make Formula One more valuable. And I've kind of thought this for a while now, kind of like 6 months, that I don't think Liberty Media are going to be the owners for like the next 5 years. There's probably a chance that they'll get through this next little period with the formula change and then maybe fatten up Formula One for sale, put lots of races in, lots more stuff like this, call. get more viewers in, produce a bit more content like Drive to Survive, like grow the viewer base and be like, look at this brilliant package we have. Let's sell it to Netflix or someone.
To Netflix. The interesting thing about Netflix too is that you would think, understand at a pretty deep level how the sport works, what its operations are kind of like. I'm sure that like they don't necessarily get invited to all the board meetings and discuss all the intricate contract details and stuff, but they have a better idea than, you know, if Amazon rocked up and was like, oh yeah, Netflix is interested, I guess we'll give you something for it. We'll put in a bid. But I think Netflix is in a good position to just have a bit more of an insight into the sport if they wanted to get it.
What I'd love to see is like a big play from, like, what would happen if Lawrence Stroll was like, I'll buy it?
Do you think he can afford it? I'd like to think he could, but I just don't know.
Well, he couldn't afford Aston Martin. You know, he got together with a consortium of people and bought the team. I think he would do something like that. But what's to stop, you know, one of the, like, Mercedes is a pretty massive company. Why don't they just buy Formula One? I mean, not quite in the same way, you know, but there are some billionaires out there who might, or, you know, maybe the Qatari investment fund or something like that. Like they would buy football clubs. Why not just buy the sport like if you're going to go down the sport washing route and you're like, cool, I'm going to use Formula One as a vehicle to make sure I look really great. Buy the sport instead of buying races or sponsoring teams. Buy the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe. So you said the SW word, which means it's time for us to get into. Yeah, what's the deal with Qatar? Are they as bad as other places, or what's the deal? And I said this is in a comment to our Discord, there was mixed feelings about the race in Qatar, but I said it'd just be nice for F1 to announce that they're going racing in a country where I don't have to jump immediately on the Amnesty website to check the human rights records of the country. So it seems like Qatar is not as bad as maybe the worst offenders on the list there, but I mean, it's interesting. One thing to remember about Qatar is that they run really good comms because Al Jazeera as a media organization is based in Qatar. For a long time, Qatar were considered like kind of the peacemakers of the region, you know, where you would have Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Iraq, UAE, Yemen, Oman, like all of these kinds of countries together. Qatar would play the like Switzerland role. As like a cool, well, if we're going to have a big meeting of all of you and like the US and France and the UK are all going to be here, we're going to have like a big, hey, let's chat about any tensions. Like Qatar would often be the host for that kind of thing, but they've kind of grown in confidence. They got the Football World Cup under maybe spurious circumstances, and they've been quite rightly there's been allegations leveled at them for, you know, using slave labor to, you know, build air-conditioned football stadia, that kind of thing. I feel like slave labor is a term used when people get paid an pittance amount of money. My understanding is these people were paid no money. Yeah, and kind of brought in from other countries under very dodgy contracts to be like, you know, to say the least,
dormitories, those kinds of things. So there's a lot of media play happening there, and depending on how those countries go about using, you know, sovereign wealth funds essentially to sponsor or buy sporting clubs, sporting teams, sponsor events. And in Formula One, they haven't really bought any teams, but they have bought races. It's an interesting part of the world to consider now that we have Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and we have the
Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi race 2. So that's 4 races in a very small part of the world that doesn't have a huge, that other than, oil interests and sports sponsorship interests, it might be difficult to point to a huge Formula One audience. But that does, I'm not doing disservice to the fans of Formula One in those countries. But when you see how hard a country like Australia has to fight to keep their Grand Prix, or how difficult it can be for some European countries to get one, it's interesting that Formula One just goes to where the money is, right? But of course they do.
Yeah, because where else are they going to go? They're going to go to places where they lose money? That's not sustainable. You said the oil word there, which is like, you're full of segues today, which, I want to do that story justice. And, I think sport washing is a bit of a big problem where we've always had a finger on that pulse for sure. We are the ones that do that. But at the same time, Formula One is announced, and this is the second news story that we thought was the most interesting to us. So Formula One's announcing that they want to move to, is it 2030? They want to move to a synthetic, more sustainable fuel, which is always interesting. But then, of course, the case gets made, well, what about all the carbon emissions of you guys carting all of the thousands and thousands of tons of stuff that you take all around the world? The thing is, right, they do that anyway, but they're going to be promoting a message of better sustainable practices, and the engineering and efforts that go into getting Formula One cars around the track via those fuels definitely helps promote them throughout other systems, other engineering efforts that are going on in the world, and so on and so forth. So it is a net good thing. Sure, could it be better? Of course, but it is a net good thing, I think. Any hot takes on this one?
No, I agree, and it's part of their goal to become net zero producer of carbon emissions. They'll probably just buy carbon credits, and that's there was a really good podcast on how that actually looks, and how like carbon credits are given out, and how like when you buy an offset, often those offsets or those parts of the rainforest that you're buying your offsets from are being sold multiple times. So your offset is actually the same offset is being bought by 20 different companies, which you can't offset that much from that. It doesn't work that way.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works at all.
Yeah, so I think this is a PR play. I think this is exactly what Formula One should be trying to do. Try to be the leader of, in their own way, be a leader of a green revolution, where I would say Formula E has kind of failed. Formula E's been on now. Soon it'll be like 10 years of Formula E, and we'll be like, what? How did that happen so fast? But it hasn't really got the traction, good racing word there, that maybe that they kind of expected it to get.
You mean in like sustained interest in the technology, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I think sustained interest. I think that it's failed from being a brand alternative to Formula One. I think Formula One, Formula E was like, we are going to bring racing into the hearts of cities. It's going to be super competitive. The cars are going to be really fast. They're going to be electric. The green revolution, all that kind of stuff, and actually drew a lot of interest from manufacturers. Audi, Mercedes, like all the VW group,
they're all pulling out
as well. Not necessarily as pulling out, but like it's not quite the series that people expected it to be. Anecdotally as well, we thought we would cover a little bit more of it, and it's never really happened because it's difficult for it to compete in volume with Formula One. And you don't see, we've seen this massive uptick in Formula One, people getting involved in Formula One who were like, don't really follow motorsport. And Formula E kind of tried to do that in like 2014. And it didn't happen. And Formula One, all it does is kind of flex its muscle a little bit, produce Drive to Survive, and then everyone's like, you know what, Formula One's really amazing. Oh my God. Because they're kind of quite right. Yeah.
One of the problems is that it's always going to be a bit of a novelty, and that it always races at temporary tracks and stuff like that. For sure, it might, capture the attention of the specific city that it's in, and for sure it has its following and all the rest of it, but it's never going to be like, the Spa Grand Prix at 1998. I would love to just walk that track and just relive that. It's never going to have anything like that. So it's hard to build excitement around it. I mean, the thing that has come along recently that's maybe got the same hype that Formula E had when it started is this Extreme E, the sort of rally switch drivers. If you said to me, how exciting was that electric racing race on the weekend, I'd be like, the Extreme E one? I assume you're talking about that. That's what comes to mind. So, the problem with gimmicks is they lose their shelf life, and then you've got to kind of build something else.
Yeah, but the electrification is not a big enough gimmick. It feels like 3D televisions to me. I don't. It's not defining enough, because it's kind of like, well, like, if you told me you bought an electric car, I'd be like, yeah, okay. If you told me that 10 years ago, I'd have been like, oh my God, what do you mean? Whereas now it's kind of like, an electric car, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I would love to buy my next car to be a hybrid. I don't think I could have an electric car. That's at least where we are, because I don't have a PowerPoint anywhere near where I park my car.
Yeah,
it's one of the
true,
big problems.
that's true.
But a hybrid, definitely.
But do you know what I mean by like, that can't be the defining factor of your series, where the extreme is like, well, the extremeness is the defining factor of the series. And yes, they all happen to be electric.
You don't have to think.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas Formula E, it was like, so it'll be just like Formula One, but they're electric. And it's like, well, no, it's kind of, it's using some of the tropes of Formula One, but not quite that. But they're electric. It's like, so then, okay, cool. So they'll be like super fast. And all that kind of like, not quite. Also, I'll see great drivers. Yeah, but not in the same way. Yeah, like, is it a feeder series to Formula One? Not really. No. Is it on the same time, same places?
Qualifies
like
for the problem is you can get super license points for doing well in.
And we don't hand them out
Formula
lightly.
E. The problem is, no, exactly, it's true, but the Formula One attached drivers that go to Formula E are like, they're on the downswing, like, you know, like they're not on the rise, and you're like, I can't wait to get into Formula E, and then boom, Formula One, baby. It just doesn't seem to really work like that.
No, and I just don't think people are excited about the E factor of it. Like Formula One is using the electrification stuff better than a whole formula is.
I'm kind of torn between agreeing with you, and then I'm also, the alternative side of that would be, well, Formula E broke the ground, and then it's like, well, but what's next? And then it hasn't delivered what's next, which is its own fault, but like, again, what's the next ground to be broken? Because they already did it. So, I mean, we can't take that away from them. But, yeah, for sure they need to find the next gear. Do you want
They were never able to... Like, I don't think either of these sports is able to iterate quite as fast as people maybe hope they would. You know, with Formula One, it's like the brand is that it's already at the pinnacle and it's already kind of insane. And then when you tell new fans like, oh, yeah, and every few years, like, they change the formula and they try to drive it forward and kind of make it go faster or be different. And, you know, doing things like... making sure all the cars use the synthetic fuel is a step in that direction. And, you know, the halo is a step in that direction. And safety, we always hear that safety standards have been driven by Formula One, and Formula One and the teams are always, it's the reason why car manufacturers and other brands are involved in it, is because it's like, oh, well, we can be seen to be taking all technology and innovation forward, and maybe that gets through to our cars. It's like, but does it though, Renault? Like, does your stuff with Alpine really make it all the way back into your Renault, like, Clios? Maybe. You sure make it out like it is. So it has that, it's the pinnacle. And I think Formula E needed to lean in as hard as they possibly could into like, it is the bleeding edge. Like, it's the newest technology. Like, our tracks are electrified so that the cars don't even need to charge. They're being charged by induction all the time. But because of its temporary nature, because it goes to temporary tracks, I think it's just trying to do too many things at once. Focus on the thing, pick your brand, and like drive that home as hard as possible. I think Formula One will just kind of swallow up all of the ground that was broken by Formula E. Just like they're starting to swallow up the esports narrative too. Like, that's like Formula One and Formula One will just become like, it's all just the same thing. They've actually, Liberty Media's kind of got their head screwed on correctly for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say before, do you want one little bonus mini story? Yes. And we can just have a quick take on this one. Stefano Domenicali has revealed in an exclusive interview that of the 23 races next year, 1/3 of which are planned to have the sprint race formula. Now, I mean, I feel like this year was the experimental year, but 1/3 of the calendar, they're not fucking around anymore. That is like, we're doing this. I still feel like they need to tweak the formats, but I've gone over that ground a whole bunch of times. But yeah, we're going to potentially have 1/3 of the races sprint formula. What do you think?
I kind of think that's a good idea. Like, I think having it as only like a 2 or 3 thing in the season, it creates too much variance. You've got like, they count overly too much. Like, if something goes really bad in that sprint race for a championship leader, you might get no points that weekend. Whereas if there's enough of them, if it's a third of the races, we've got a 23 season, so it's going to be 5 to 6. No, more than that. It's going to be 7 to 8 races in the year are going to have the sprint formula. That's enough to kind of counter that variance and regress to the mean. I'm not a stats guy. I just like that sentence. But make sure that there's equal chance of good and bad things happening to everyone.
Yes, I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. If the championship gets decided by 1 point and it turns out, Lewis Hamilton got 1 extra point at a sprint race and there was only 2 for the whole season or something, then you'd be like, oh, bloody sprint race. But when there's like 10, you can't be like, hey man, you had your chances. There are some F1 seasons where we had 10 races. So it's just more that, again, this was always the direction they were going. They were always dipping their toe in the water this year to see how it worked. But obviously they like what they're seeing. I really do want them to get rid of the normal, quote unquote, normal Friday qualifying. That's got to go.
Yeah, it's dumb. Junk. Do something else.
Junk.
Have another sprint race to organise the grid for the sprint race.
That's exactly right. Well, look, that's probably the majority of the news that we see fit to print. And we should probably move on to, well, what should we do? Should we round out the Twitter poll? Do you want to do content recommendations first?
Well, let's round out the Twitter poll.
Feeling?
Keep all the Formula One stuff in the Formula One section of the show.
A reminder, that Twitter poll was Fernando Aloris. Is that a thing? Your options were yep or yeah, righto, mate. I think you guessed yeah, righto, mate. Let's see what the results are. With a stunning over 70% of the vote is yeah, righto, mate. So well done. You got it correct.
Beautiful.
Given that this came from your own brain, I'm sort of not surprised that you got the answer right.
But
as much as you can get that answer right.
But I both win and lose here because yeah, righto, mate means I was correctly... I was correct in my assumption or my feelings that it wasn't anything. So yeah, it wasn't anything. I'm a little bit disappointed that I came up with something that I thought was chuckle worthy, and turns out it's not. But I'm glad we got the content from it regardless.
I think putting it out there and then saying no, it's nothing. That's chuckle worthy. That's I'd give that my time.
This is nothing.
I'd give it my engagement. Okay.
Well, good. I will come up with more fun stuff. I promise. It's my promise to you.
It's time for content. I don't know, like last time we did this, we did 2 each. Do you want to stick with 1? Do you want to go to 2? I don't know what you want to do.
How many did you say did you have? Like you had 45 or something?
I've got 9 on my list, but I'm picking.
Where do you find the time?
Like I've just been, anytime I think of something great, I'm like, oh, jot that one down so that I'm not like fumbling and going, geez, I don't know. Facebook's pretty good, isn't it? Not for my whole life, for the last month.
You know what's great? Chomp bars. Yeah, I know. We all know.
It's not content. It's caloric content, but it's not.
Yeah, but the contents are yummy.
It's true.
All right. Fine.
Well, I was going to say that you made a bold,
heaps.
You made a you made a bold prediction and you said, I think I know what's on your list, Rod. I think I know what your pick's going to be. So you need to lay your cards down. Show me what you thought.
Yeah.
I was going to
say, calamari game is going to be your choice.
The calamari, the teppanyaki. So the top of my list is Squid Game, and I have in brackets, although it's not really a recommendation, and here's why it's not a recommendation. It's Netflix's biggest show. It's the world's biggest show. You've either heard of it or you're dead. So I don't need to recommend this. Why would I recommend this?
Because people trust your opinion. It's because people see it coming up.
No one trusts my opinion.
Netflix don't share their viewing data very easily. So they just show you, hey, it's like our most viewed show. But that doesn't... They could be making that shit up, man. Don't trust Netflix in a second. Although if they want to give us a show, like a Drive to Survive at Night,
syndicate us in the after show.
Yeah, we're down for that. Maybe we should turn that into a YouTube thing. Anyway, tell me why do you like it so much without the spoilers? Because I haven't watched any of it yet. I am umming and ahhing whether my partner will be into this or not at all.
No, you should just go. Oh, I've heard good things about this thing. You just pop it on and watch it. I've only seen 1 episode, so I'm not. Just calm down.
What?
But it was really good, and I'm really in on the premise, and I think that given all the hype around it, I really think the show hopefully will just deliver across the whole season. I have had 1 plot point spoiled for me, which I'm absolutely livid about. So this is a PSA, everybody. If you've seen it and some idiot posts some content on Facebook and you feel like you want to tag your friend, don't, because guess what? All of their friends see that. And if they don't want it spoiled, they'll be very angry at you and want to rip your ears off. So don't do that. This is Rod's friendly spoiler-free tips. I think you should watch it. Just watch 1. And then just know, the good thing is it's 1 hour. You could just watch 1. And then the good thing is that you'll understand all the references that everyone's talking about at the moment.
Fine.
But if you don't like it, you don't have to watch it ever again. It's fine.
All I can hope for is that Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp will go down again, and I can find yet another hour for me to enjoy some content.
A day! So officially, that's not my recommendation, but it did cheer up a couple of minutes, which is great. If you want to go next, that's perfectly fine, or I'm happy to go again.
No, I got another one. I May Destroy
I
You.
haven't done one yet. That was not my recommendation. Could I not have been any clearer? I said I'm not recommending that because it's already the world's most recommended thing.
You do it. Go
Boy.
then. Have another one.
Follow
You want
the
another bite of the cherry?
You want to go last? Okay, cool. I understand. What should I go with here? There's so many things. I'm going to go with this one just more before, again, it has a bit of a shelf life on it. Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald passed away a little while ago. Comedian Norm Macdonald used to be on Saturday Night Live, and he's sort of like in the background of all the, Adam Sandler movies and stuff. But don't hold that against him. He was a very talented, and he's the kind of comedian that would tell a joke and it would just, the punchline would come from out of nowhere, and you kind of look at him and just think, you're just a normal guy. You're not going to say anything amazing. And then he did, not perfect, but I really enjoyed Norm Macdonald's comedy. And then the good thing is you can just go to YouTube and pull up, 10 hours of Norm Macdonald making jokes about O.J. Simpson or something, whatever you like. So there's tons and tons and tons of Norm Macdonald content out there online. I'd encourage, my content recommendation is just go and look up some Norm Macdonald and just to watch.
Well, that's a nice, easy thing for people to do. Yeah, open up the YouTubes and type in a name. Norm Macdonald. Yep. That seems easy.
That's the name.
I like the...
Suspiciously easy.
The moth joke that he did on...
I was just going to say that. Should we talk about that? Should we tell? I don't know that we can tell it the way he did.
No, you can't tell it, but it's just fun. You should go and find the moth joke. What's he on? Is he on The Late Show or something like that?
It might be with Conan, but I don't remember which. Or it might be Kimmel. I don't remember which one. Norm Macdonald, the moth joke. Start there and then see where it takes you.
Yeah, exactly.
Great recommendation.
My recommendation is I was slow to get on this show. It is a show called I May Destroy You. It is created by Michaela Cole, written by Michaela Cole, and starring Michaela Cole, and she directs some of it as well. It is made by BBC. It is maybe a bit of a black comedy, I would say, very much about her life in London. So it's nice being in London and so getting some of the references and places and all that kind of stuff. But it's exciting. It is sometimes a difficult thing to watch. But it's very nuanced, interesting. It's one of those shows where I felt like this a bit about Breaking Bad too. Like 1 to 2 episodes at a time was always enough for me. And I think that some shows are like that because it's important, I think, to digest what you are watching too. Not just because it's like, oh, that was a really hard thing to watch. Like those are still worthwhile watching. You should. But it's more like, all right, I'm just going to watch that episode and have a breather and just like compute some of that, put some of that together, and you may want to binge it, but I think you might get a little less out of it if you go and binge it, or binge whatever you want. But they're on BBC iPlayer. I'm sure you've all got different VPNs that you can use to get to BBC iPlayer. Nor encouraging nor condoning that. But it's great and beautifully acted, directed, written. Really like it.
I feel like I was listening that whole time. You said it was nuanced and you said it was set in London. What's it about? Yeah.
So it's about a young writer who is the director who has she wrote a book based on some the older millennia, I think it was, or zillennial or something like that. Like she was writing really good tweets and got picked up for a book, and that was relatively successful. So she's kind of in the public eye, especially with Black and minority communities, and then is in the process of writing her second book and goes through a very traumatic experience. And the show is kind of her going through that and kind of denying it, coming to grips with it, leaning on her friends for support, and trying to navigate that process. And it touches on a lot of coming up against bureaucracy, coming up against prejudice, but it's witty and fast moving and really fun, but also quite difficult at some points too. So a good one, a very good one. I'm really enjoying it. I'm sure it's
a brilliant show. It's a bit of a down note to end on though. You got something else? Can you lighten us up a bit?
Yeah, I got other things. I'm watching other stuff. No,
I mean,
I'm reading other things.
It doesn't have to be a recommendation, even just some. Yes.
It's what we have this in our household, the palate cleanser. So we'll watch something like that. And I'll put an episode of Seinfeld on afterwards, just to clean up the dishes and just brighten the whole day up.
It's I can't go to bed on that note show. You just
exactly.
I need to just put something on.
I often put a podcast on. Put us on after you've watched something difficult.
A
tough documentary, and put us on. My other suggestion now, if you want one more, it is a book that I feel a bit funny about reading because I haven't read anything by this author, and this is like kind of his memoir on a part of his life. So it's Murakami. What I talk about when I talk about running. He's a famous novelist from Japan, and this is a memoir book about his kind of becoming a novelist, but like, why does he run? Like, he's not an elite runner or anything, but like, why does he enjoy running? I've been someone through the last year and a half, kind of through the pandemic, has kind of got into running too. And I've heard lots of people talk about this. It's kind of a nice meditative, as I said, memoir on the joy of running and why it can be so nice, and not to do it necessarily for competition as much as just to kind of take a break in your day and think about yourself and think about your health and kind of rebalance your life a little bit and make time for something that is not work or specifically play, that is something kind of different. And his writing style is really punchy and fun and easy to read, paints a beautiful picture, and I'm really enjoying it so far. Murakami,
Like,
what I talk about when I talk about running.
I like all of that. I too have tried to get into running. I find it really hard. And then a few years ago, there was that app that came out that was like, put this on when you're running, and it makes the sounds of zombies chasing you, and you will run faster. And I thought, this is the hook that I need to get me into running. But it didn't stick either. But I don't know if anyone else out there needs that in their life. Just Google that and try and find it.
Yeah,
might be a bit of a fun thing to do. Break up Shakedown. Break up the lockdown for you a little bit.
Best advice I got on running was from a different book called Born to Run, which was about
Bruce Springsteen story.
Yeah, exactly. It was about the Tarahumara. I think I've suggested on the show, Tarahumara, like running tribes in Mexico who run really, really, really far distances, and this is part of their culture. But there was a guy in there whose advice was, if it feels like hard work, you're working too hard. It really should feel easy. Yeah. So slow down, do less time, do less distance until you feel a little bit better. This all comes in from inspiration from friend of the show, Costa.
I was going to bring him up.
Do it.
Yeah, doing some running. I've just, just put up an Instagram post today of like, very arty shot because he's a very talented visual guy. Like he's running sneakers leaning against these very expensive headphones, but he was like, did a 60-day running challenge, hit my goal. I'm not going to stop. And I feel great. And I've been feeling way better about myself and, taking that mental break, like you said. And just, it was, I saw it. I liked it. I saw that you liked it. And I liked that you liked it. So yeah. Good stuff, Consta. Keep it up.
Yeah. He probably doesn't listen to the show. Who knows? Have you got... there are rumors, Rod, that you've got a list of 9 things. Have you got one more?
Oh, dear me. I feel like these are all like, like a 10-episode Netflix series or books. Like, I mean, here's one that you can... It's 2.5 minutes. I've listened to this song probably 20 or 30 times. I've tried listening to other songs by this band and they don't... I don't know. I just keep going back to this one. When you have a song like that. I'm not usually like that. I'm more of an albums kind of guy or an everything kind of guy. But this song called Do It All the Time by a band called I Don't Know How But They Found Me. Zach, what's that from?
I don't know how, but they found me. What's
I don't know how, but they found me. What movie is that from?
No idea.
It's got to do with time travel.
Oh. Looper?
No. I think 80s movie about time travel.
Oh, Back to the Future.
The only one. Back to the Future. I don't know how, but they found me. Remember the line?
No.
He's standing in the rain. No, not standing in the rain. He's standing in front of his van, and then the car, the big van, pulls into the car park. And he says, I don't know how, but they found me.
Yes.
Anyway, I thought that was going to be a more interesting tangent than it was. Doesn't matter. That's the band name. I don't know how, but they found me. If you want to remember it, just remember that scene from Back to the Future when old man is gunned down on the streets. But the song, Do It All the Time. I love that song. So catchy, so good. And it just makes me feel good.
Is it a pump up like, hey, I'm going to go do something now kind of song?
It's a party song. It's just get in the damn mood and just, it's uncomplicated, but perfect.
Great.
So there you go. If you want you want something with a low investment of your time, that's a good one to check out. Oh, check it out on YouTube like I did and then get it recommended to you after every video that you watch. And then you watch it every time. It's great. Are we done here, Zach?
Yeah, I thought of you yesterday. I don't...
did you?
I've heard about this band, REM, that people really like. I haven't spent any time with them. And so I put on their... this is REM Spotify post. Oh, okay. Since I don't know all their songs. Cool. I was like, oh, yeah, I do like this.
Yeah,
funny.
Of course. They're that band.
Yeah, they're that band that did all those songs. When you know that in the back of your mind, there's like... I know all of this, but I'd never really actually given it the time to like listen to an album or like really get involved with a thing. And then you actually spend the time to do that. And I think about half the time it pays off. Half the time you're like, am I glad that I watched all those episodes of Friends? I'm not. I don't think I should have gone back and watched lots of Friends because it's not worth it. So yeah, don't do that. But REM, yeah, there we go.
There you go. Another band that's a bit like that is Talking Heads. A new episode of my podcast called This Must Be Talking Heads went out recently, covering the album True Stories featuring the hit song Wild Wild Life. You might have heard that one on the MTV back in the day. So there you go. That's
Lovely.
more. That'll keep you covered at least until the next Shakedown, if not beyond. Until then, enjoy the running. I guess we're going to wrap it up now. Before I feel like I can't commit without checking in with you. Can I end the show now?
Yeah, of course. I haven't got a page of recommendations.
Well, try harder, I suppose. That's my recommendation for you. Make a list, my friend. Maybe while you're running, you could think of some stuff.
So hard.
It just makes it easy come this part of the show, and we have to think of stuff. That's all.
You're right.
No, you're doing great. Proud of you, and it's been great talking to you. You made me feel so much better. And
good.
But it's time to sign off. So until then, until then, which is next time. My name's been Rod.
My name's been Zach.
And we'll see you after the Turkish Grand Prix. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.